Hello? Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Nice. Go for it. Hi. Okay, so I'm not the most professional of speakers, right? But I am a person who speaks up about what they care about. And for me, recently, I've been speaking about diversity in the creative industries. As a person of color, I realized that our industry is pretty lackluster in terms of representation. And me being a student meant that I had to research tirelessly on this. So, I've got a bunch of stats and figures, but I'm not going to shout out about this because you guys should know that already, right? So in this studio, me and my peers, we do this day in, day out. We look at the design industry and we think about what works and what doesn't. And for me, personally, I've had experience of going to guest workshops, hearing talks from guest lecturers, but the problem is none of them were of colour. And that was in my 3 years of being a student. So that made me feel like an outsider to this industry, despite being a person who's trying to fit into the industry. Vicky Carr is one of my tutors, who is not here sadly, but she wrote this to me. She said, fuck creating something for others, and you will get something out of it personally, because I believed that I would not get anything out of this personally if I went on to challenge this, but I did challenge this. My first project, which I did back in second year, is called White Space. It was an exhibition which challenged and encouraged people to think about the industry and to think about why diversity should be necessary. So it had questions, it had work, it had 100 different creatives from around the world, all of whom are of colour, and essentially, I went around and asked my peers how many black and Asian and minority ethnic creatives do you know, and the answer was 0. And for me, it was 0 as well, So that was extremely shocking, and I had to challenge it in some way. And this exhibition opened up quite a bit for me, which you'll see in a bit. This booklet here is my pride and joy. It's deteriorated and it's full of mistakes, but it shows White Space in its entirety, and I wish I had it with me, but I don't. This is an illustration from an article I did following on from White Space called Whitewashed. It was on Intern, and essentially I talked about those points. Because it's an article, I'm not going to say it word for word. If you want to look at it, search Whitewashed, please. Following on from this, I started third year, and essentially I wanted to do something different, something cool, something new. So I decided to do a directory of online and minority ethnic creatives, all from Greater Manchester, all based in Manchester, so that exhibitions, talks, events all around Greater Manchester would have some sort of representation, despite the fact that they don't, you know what I mean? I had experience of going to a lot of exhibitions, and the problem was, again, I felt like an outsider. I felt like I didn't belong, and I wanted to change that, and Fuse was the gateway to doing that. Today, I'm building Fuse so that there's articles on the website, as well as a directory of resources, so there's organizations on there you can look at. And on Instagram, I am showcasing publications that I think are worth looking at, like Yellow Zine here, and Yes and No magazine, talking about refugees in the 7th issue. So essentially, Fuse is a passion project, and it's something that I really wanted to bring out and help my peers understand, as well as taking it offline with an event that happened a couple of months ago called Diffuse. So Diffuse was a workshop curated to bring together these creatives on the directory and workshopping a manifesto to improve diversity and inclusion in Manchester. So here pictured is all of the creatives, well, not all, most of the creatives on the directory. And we had a lot of conversations that night that were kind of overwhelming in a good way, in the sense of everyone felt comfortable speaking about issues that they necessarily wouldn't speak up about. And we gathered a lot of insight in this, and we believe that we existed at the time due to the fact we were speaking up, and that wasn't something that people had the experience of doing before Diffuse. So I'm grateful for the fact that I managed to get this opportunity, doing Diffuse and even doing this. So it's about creating a platform, and the problem is for students that I've realized is they probably don't have the confidence in doing so. But the truth is, you do have the confidence, and there are people who will be listening to you, and there are people who will support you and help you get to where you want to do. And people will listen to you. They will obviously reciprocate what you're trying to say, but they also will help you create the change that you want to create. You have the power to do all that yourself as well. You can create a platform. You can build a platform. All of you probably have a platform, whether you have 5 followers or 1,000 followers. You all have the power to speak up about what you're passionate about, whether that's equality, whether that's climate change, the rainforest burning down, anything and everything. And the great thing about that is it feeds into the next generation of designers and creatives. So that is the most important thing for me, is about educating those who are coming up next and then educating the following generation. Because we have to believe that the students will come into a university that they're proud of and can feel like they belong in. We have to tear down the establishment. We've got to come up with new ideas, come up with new innovative ways to think about how we can start creating change and then start speaking up about it. I'm going to leave you with this. My next slide. We'll be less activists if you'll be less shit. So the good thing about this is we hope that the industry is progressing. I believe it is, slowly. But, there are people who will oppose you, but, fuck them. Keep doing what you're doing. You got to enjoy that, and you got to speak up. Thank you very much.